The arena lights flickered as the crowds of the core Thai Empire gathered in their seats, rumbling like a living storm. Every species in the stands had come to witness the same event, the event that would decide the next ruler of the empire. Their arena was famous across 1,000 star systems. Many had entered it. Few had left it alive. Today, they expected another quick, bloody show. Today, they expected to celebrate their champion. But something felt different, like the air itself was holding its breath. Whispers moved through the crowd, soft at first, then stronger, forming a single confused question. Is that a human? Down on the black stone floor, the challenger stood alone, surrounded by the shadows of the massive arena walls. He was not tall compared to the giants of the outer worlds. He had no shining armor, only worn plates strapped to his chest and arms. He carried a simple sword made of alloy older than the empire itself. His name was Daniel Rios. Most of the crowd had never even seen a human before. On many worlds, humans were spoken of only in old warnings, like bedtime stories meant to scare children. They were said to be stubborn, reckless, and painfully hard to kill. But that was long ago. The Empire had conquered Earth and broken most of its fleet. Humans were no longer feared. They were forgotten. Until now. A deep horn sounded, shaking dust from the arena pillars. High above, in the royal balcony, the Empress watched with a cold expression, her 4 golden eyes narrowed. She spoke into a private channel. This is a joke. Send him back. A human cannot challenge my champion. But the rules were ancient. The arena accepted any challenger who survived the trials. Daniel had survived them all. He had survived them with no team, no guide, and no mercy. Rumors said he even completed one of the trials blindfolded because he couldn't see through the dark fog. The Empress hated these rumors. They made him sound impressive, and no human had impressed the Empire in generations. The gate on the opposite side groaned open. The crowd roared. The champion stepped out, an armored giant shaped like a walking mountain. Its skin was covered in sharp bone plates, and its eyes glowed like burning coals. The creature held a warhammer longer than Daniel's entire body. This was the Empire's strongest warrior, the one they believed unbeatable. Daniel did not flinch. He did not step back. He only breathed out once, slow and calm. He looked small beneath the towering alien, but something in his stance made a few quiet watchers lean forward. He stood like someone who had nothing left to lose. The judge's voice echoed over the speakers. Let the trial of leadership begin. The champion charged. The ground shook. Dust exploded from every step. Many in the crowd cheered, expecting Daniel to be smashed flat in the first second. Even the Empress allowed a small smile. But Daniel was already moving. He slipped to the side like a shadow sliding over the floor. The champion's hammer slammed down, missing by inches. The stone cracked like breaking ice. Before the giant could lift the weapon again, Daniel struck. Quick. Silent. A cut along the champion's wrist. A cut so small it was almost invisible. The crowd gasped. Not because of the cut, but because of how he moved, fast, controlled, and without fear. Like he had studied this fight 1,000 times. The champion roared and swung again. Daniel ducked under the massive arm, rolled between the creature's legs, and sliced the tendons behind its knee. The champion fell to one side, stumbling. The crowd went silent. Then the silence became confusion. Confusion became worry. This is not possible, a noble muttered in the balcony. But Daniel was already circling again. His breath was steady. His eyes were sharp. He moved like a soldier who had trained every day since childhood. He moved like a human who refused to die. The champion lifted the hammer and threw it with all its strength. The weapon spun through the air, cutting through the smoke and lights. Daniel didn't try to block it. He didn't try to dodge it normally. He sprinted forward, toward the weapon, and slid under it so close he felt the wind burn across his back. The crowd shrieked. The champion froze for half a second, shocked. That half second was enough. Daniel jumped, using the champion's bent knee as a step, climbed up its back, and drove his sword into the gap between 2 bone plates. The roar that followed shook the arena. The champion collapsed, its huge body hitting the ground with a deep, final thud. The entire arena went quiet. For a moment, no one moved. No one cheered. No one even breathed. A human, one small, tired human, stood over the Empire's greatest champion. Daniel pulled his sword free and raised it once toward the balcony, toward the Empress. The message was clear. He was not finished. He had only just begun. A wave of heavy silence fell over the Empire. And across the arena, across every seat, across every watching noble and soldier, one truth spread like a dark wind. A human had entered the arena. And the Empire mourned. The arena smelled of dust, blood, and old metal as Daniel stood over the fallen champion. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The crowds of the Kortai Empire were frozen in their seats, too stunned to cheer or scream. Even the Empress did not speak. Her 4 golden eyes were locked on the human below, studying him like he was some strange creature crawling out of a forgotten grave. Daniel wiped the blade on his arm guard. His movements were slow, careful, as if he didn't want to break the silence too early. But inside, he could feel his heartbeat rising. Not from fear, he had burned through all his fear a long time ago. This was focus, the kind that came from years of training in too many battles he should not have survived. The judge's voice trembled when he finally spoke. The champion is defeated. The words rolled across the arena like thunder. Shock turned into chaos. Some spectators shouted in disbelief. Others stood and argued with each other. Some even left their seats, as if unable to accept what their eyes showed them. A few brave ones stared at the human with something new in their expressions, something like respect. Maybe even fear. The Empress rose from her throne. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. The whole arena went still again. She leaned forward on the railing. Human, she said, her tone sharp and cold. State your purpose. Daniel looked up. His face was calm, but his hands tightened around the sword's hilt. He spoke loud enough to be heard across the arena. I challenge your right to rule. A loud gasp rippled through the crowd. Challenging the throne was not unheard of, but a human doing it? A human who was supposed to be broken, conquered, made into labor force generations ago? It felt impossible. It felt wrong. But the rules of the arena were ancient, and they were clear. Anyone who defeated the champion earned the right to rise further. The Empress studied him for a long moment. Her voice was quieter when she finally replied. You seek the imperial crown? You dare? Daniel did not blink. I dare. The Empress looked to her advisors, whispering in a language Daniel did not understand. Their faces were tight with anger and confusion. Finally, she turned back to him. Then you will face the next trial, she announced. The trial of worth. A deep, rumbling sound echoed beneath the arena floor, like machines waking from sleep. The ground shook. The arena walls shifted apart, revealing a dark passage leading underground. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had expected this. The Empire never made things simple. They wanted to break challengers slowly, step by step, until only those worthy stood, or died. Proceed, the Empress commanded. 2 guards approached Daniel, but he shook his head. I walk alone. He stepped toward the passage. Behind him, the crowd watched like a massive creature with 1,000 eyes. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Some looked hopeful in a strange, nervous way. Inside the passage, the lights were dim. The walls were made of old stone mixed with alien metal, carved with symbols of past winners. Few symbols appeared near the passage entrance. Most were deep within, because most challengers never made it back. Daniel continued walking until the noise of the arena faded. The air grew colder. The light turned red. Then the floor opened into a giant chamber. The trial of worth. Daniel stopped. Before him was a wide circular room with platforms floating at different heights. Below them was a pit of swirling energy, bright like lightning and loud like a storm trapped underground. The platforms shifted, rising and falling, rotating slowly. And across the chamber, blocking the exit, stood 3 figures. Not living ones. Drones, old, but deadly. Their bodies were made of dark metal, shaped like tall humanoids with long arms ending in energy blades. Their heads had no eyes, only glowing lines. Ancient war machines from an older age of the Empire. Daniel cursed softly under his breath. The speakers crackled to life. The Empress's voice filled the chamber. To earn the right to continue, you must cross the platforms and defeat the Guardians. Only then may you pass. Daniel examined the platforms again. Some were steady. Others looked like they would fall apart if touched. One was coated in slippery liquid. Another sparked with electric arcs. He took a breath. Fine. The first drone activated, lifting its arm. A flash of blue energy filled the blade. Daniel sprinted. He jumped onto the first platform. It shook under his weight. He stayed low, keeping his balance. The drone leapt forward, swinging hard. Daniel ducked and rolled across the platform, barely avoiding the blade. He jumped to the next one. It rotated fast, nearly throwing him off. He grabbed the side and held on, pulling himself up. The second drone fired a burst of energy. Daniel leapt again, the shot slicing through the air behind him. He landed on a narrow platform that tilted dangerously. His boots slid, and for a moment his heart spiked. The energy pit roared below, glowing bright enough to paint his face in blue light. He steadied himself and kept moving. The drones closed in, one from the front, two from behind. Daniel jumped again, swinging his sword in mid-air. The blade cut into the first drone's arm, sending sparks flying. He landed hard on a bigger platform, rolled, and jumped again as the drone crashed beside him. The second drone lunged. Daniel parried, sparks blinding him. He kicked the drone off the platform. It fell into the energy pit with a loud scream of metal. Only one left. He reached the largest platform near the exit door. The last drone landed on the same platform with a heavy clang. The two faced each other in the dim red light. Daniel charged. The drone swung. Metal clashed with metal. Sparks flew. Daniel pressed forward, his muscles burning. The drone spun, its blade cutting the air near his throat. Daniel dropped low, kicked its leg, and sliced through the joint. The drone collapsed. Daniel drove his sword into its chest, shutting it down. Silence. The exit door opened. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his face. He looked up at the glowing cameras in the ceiling. He wasn't done. He wasn't even close. Daniel stepped through the exit door, leaving the glowing pit and broken drones behind him. His breath slowed as he entered a long hallway lit by soft blue light. The metal floor hummed quietly under his boots. The walls were lined with carvings, records of past trials and challengers. Some panels showed warriors winning great battles. Many others ended in flames or in the jaws of alien beasts. The images were meant to intimidate anyone who walked this path. Daniel barely looked at them. He wiped sweat from his forehead and rolled his shoulder, checking the soreness in his arm. The fight with the drones had taken more energy than he liked. He needed to pace himself. The Empire would not let him reach the throne easily. He knew that. But he also knew he didn't have a choice. He had come too far to stop now. A round doorway opened ahead. Daniel stepped inside. He found himself in a small chamber with dark glass walls. A single floating camera orb hovered in the center. The orb glowed red as it scanned him from head to toe. The Empress's voice filled the chamber. "You survived the trial of worth." Daniel said nothing. "You will not survive the next," she continued. Her voice was calm, but there was tension hiding beneath it. A human cannot defeat the Empire. A human cannot rise higher than this arena. You will stop here. Daniel stared at the orb. "We'll see." The Empress let out a soft hiss of annoyance. "Very well. The third trial begins now. The trial of truth." The glass around Daniel turned transparent. He was standing in a new arena, this one smaller, dim, and with no visible exits. The floor was smooth black stone with faint circular patterns that glowed under his feet. Above him, no crowd watched from seats. Instead, dozens of floating camera orbs circled like silent ghosts. Then Daniel saw them. 3 platforms rose from the floor, each holding a hologram. But not of monsters or machines. Of humans. The first projection showed a young girl kneeling in rubble, holding a broken toy. Dirt streaked her face. Her eyes were wide with fear. The second showed a woman in an armored suit, blood staining her shoulder, gripping a rifle. Her expression was fierce, desperate, angry. The third showed an older man, sitting in a chair with shackles on his wrists, looking straight ahead with calm resignation. Daniel froze. He knew these images. Not the people, they were unknown to him. But the scenes. They were from Earth. From the invasion. The Empress spoke again. "Human emotion is your kind's greatest weakness. So we will test it." The floor vibrated. The holograms flickered but stayed. "You must choose," the Empress said. "One platform will collapse into fire. One will collapse into blades. One will remain safe. Save only one. The other 2 perish." Daniel clenched his jaw. "They're holograms. They aren't real." The Empress's tone sharpened. "It is not about them. It is about you. What you choose reveals the truth inside you. And depending on your choice, the next trial will shift." Daniel stared at the 3 projections. The girl. The soldier. The old man. It was a trick. He knew that. But choosing nothing wasn't an option. He walked slowly around the platforms, his boots echoing in the silent room. He studied each hologram. The girl trembled. The soldier lifted her chin in defiance. The old man waited quietly, as if ready for whatever came next. Daniel closed his eyes. He spoke softly, almost whispering to himself, "What truth do you want, Empress?" Her voice responded instantly. "The truth of what you value. The truth of who you are." Daniel opened his eyes and stepped toward a platform. He chose the soldier. The Empress sounded surprised. "Explain." Daniel looked at the hologram. She fights. She resists. She tries to protect others. The girl is innocent, but innocence doesn't survive war. The old man already knows his path. But the soldier still has strength. A fighter is hope. The Empress was silent for several seconds. Then the floor shook. The soldier's platform sank safely, the other two plunged downward into pits filled with red light. The holograms flickered and vanished. Daniel watched quietly, jaw tight. He didn't look away. The Empress finally spoke. Very well. You have faced your truth and survived. The walls shifted, folding like metal petals opening. A new doorway appeared ahead. But before Daniel stepped through it, the Empress added, "Human, understand this. The more you continue, the more the Empire will hate you. You are already a stain on our honor. If you fall today, every crowd in every city will cheer." Daniel looked up at one of the floating orbs. His voice was steady. "They can cheer. But I'm not here for their approval." "Then why?" she demanded. He answered without hesitation. "Because someone has to stand against you." The Empress hissed with anger, but the trial chamber could not hold him any longer. The door opened fully. Daniel walked through. The hallway beyond was darker than before, lit only by the soft flicker of emergency-style lights. Thick pipes ran along the ceiling, and the air tasted metallic. The arena was changing the deeper he went. He could feel it. The first trial had tested strength. The second tested his skill. The third tested his mind. The fourth would be worse. He heard distant roaring, echoing, monstrous, shaking dust from the ceiling. He tightened his grip on his sword. Whatever waited ahead. He was ready. Daniel followed the dark hallway as the distant roar grew louder. The sound echoed through the metal walls like thunder trapped inside a long steel cage. He had heard many beasts across many planets, but this sound was different. It carried weight, deep, angry, almost ancient. The Empire wasn't hiding its next trial. It wanted him to hear it coming. It wanted him to fear it. He kept walking. At the end of the hallway, a tall gate blocked his path. It was made from plates of thick metal covered in claw marks, dents, and deep scratches. Something had tried to claw its way out before. Something big. The lights above flickered, and the Empress's voice returned, colder than before. "Human, you have come farther than expected. But your journey ends here." Daniel did not respond. He only lifted his sword slightly, ready. The Empress continued, "This is the trial of survival. It does not test strength, or skill, or even your mind. It tests whether your species deserves to continue breathing beneath our sky." She paused, letting the silence settle. "I believe the answer is no." The metal gate rattled. Something struck it from the other side. Dust rained down from above. The roar returned, louder, shaking the ground. Daniel took 2 steps back. Another impact. The metal bent inward. A third. The bolts holding it snapped. The gate exploded forward. A massive shape burst into the arena chamber beyond. Daniel stood ready as the creature stepped into view. It was huge, 4 meters tall, maybe more. Its body looked like a mix between a reptile and a gorilla, with thick muscle and black scales that glistened in the dim light. 4 red eyes glowed from its skull-like head. 2 long horns curved backward, and its mouth was filled with rows of sharp, uneven teeth. Its arms were as thick as tree trunks, ending in claws longer than Daniel's fingers. The Empire called these creatures Grathul. Daniel had heard of them only in rumors, beasts raised in captivity, fed special diets, trained for destruction, and then abandoned in darkness until they forgot the world existed. Daniel wasn't afraid. But his heart beat faster. The Empress's voice filled the chamber again. "Survive for 5 minutes. That is all you must do." Daniel knew better. 5 minutes wasn't a trial. 5 minutes was a death sentence. The Grathul charged. Daniel moved instantly, diving to the side as the massive claws ripped across the stone floor. The impact sent cracks spidering outward. The beast roared and swung its tail, a thick whip of muscle striking the ground where Daniel had stood a second earlier. He rolled, keeping low, keeping mobile. He needed distance. He needed a plan. He needed. The Grathul was already on him. It lunged with terrifying speed. Daniel barely blocked the strike with his sword. The impact sent shockwaves up his arm, nearly knocking the weapon from his hand. He slid across the floor, boots scraping against the stone. Daniel forced himself to focus. He had fought large creatures before. Fighting them head-on was hopeless. He had to use their size against them, use the arena around him, use. The Grathul leapt, crashing down where he had rolled. The stone shattered under its weight. Dust exploded around them. Daniel dashed behind one of the arena pillars. The Grathul slammed into the pillar, breaking a piece off. The whole structure shook and tilted. Daniel sprinted again. He climbed the broken stone, jumping up onto a higher platform along the arena wall. He needed height. He needed the beast to climb after him. Below, the Grathul roared and charged the wall, its claws scraping the stone. It leapt upward, digging its claws into the rock. Perfect. Daniel waited until it was halfway up, climbing unevenly, struggling to get a proper grip. Then he jumped off the platform, grabbed a loose hanging chain from the ceiling, and swung across the arena. The Grathul looked up. Too late. Daniel landed behind it on a smaller pillar and kicked hard against the stone. The pillar cracked and tipped forward. The Grathul roared and lost its balance. It fell backward, smashing into the ground with a deep, shaking impact. Daniel leapt down, moving fast. He sprinted toward the beast as it struggled to rise. He stabbed the blade into the creature's leg, one of the joints between the thick scales. The Grathul howled in pain. The Empress hissed into the speakers. This trial is survival, not combat. You cannot kill it. Daniel pulled his blade back, breathing hard. I'm not trying to kill it. I'm trying to slow it down. The Grathul lunged again, furious now, its movements shaking the entire arena. Daniel dodged behind fallen stone chunks, using them as shields. The beast destroyed each obstacle in seconds, throwing debris everywhere. Time stretched. Seconds felt like minutes. Daniel's muscles burned. His lungs ached. Sweat dripped down his face. But he kept moving. Always moving. The Grathul swung again. Daniel jumped, grabbed onto a rope attached to a hanging cage, and climbed fast. The beast roared below and slammed into the cage, pushing it like a giant battering ram. Daniel clung tight as the cage swung wildly. Each swing brought him higher. He waited for the right angle. Then he jumped again, grabbing a metal beam, climbing to the highest point he could reach. A loud tone echoed across the arena. 5 minutes. The trial was over. The Grathul froze as a loud pulse rang from hidden speakers. Its eyes dimmed. Its muscles loosened. The beast slowly backed away, returning to the shadows through a retracting gate. Daniel slumped against the metal beam. His breathing was heavy, but he was alive. The Empress finally spoke again. Human. You survive like a pest. Not like a warrior. Daniel forced himself to stand. Survival is the first rule of any warrior. Silence. Then the next door opened, deeper within the arena. Daniel climbed down, landed hard, and walked toward the next trial. He didn't know what the fifth trial would be. But the Empire was afraid now. He could feel it. Daniel stepped through the next doorway, muscles burning and breath still uneven from the Grathul fight. The air here was colder, thinner, and it carried a strange smell, like metal mixed with something older, something ancient. The hallway ahead was different from the ones before. It was wider, lined with tall statues on both sides. Each statue showed a member of the Kortai Empire holding a weapon or wearing a crown. Their faces were carved in harsh, proud expressions. Their 4 eyes stared down like silent judges. As Daniel walked between them, he felt the tension building. The Empire wasn't just testing his survival anymore. It was protecting something important. At the end of the hallway, a massive circular door waited. It was covered in glowing lines that pulsed like veins. The moment Daniel stepped near it, the door reacted, spiraling open with a deep mechanical growl. Inside was a large chamber filled with blue light. Unlike the earlier arenas, this one was quiet. No roars. No machines. No rising platforms. Only a wide open floor made of smooth black stone. The ceiling stretched high above, disappearing into darkness. Strange symbols glowed across the walls, shifting like living ink. In the center of the chamber stood a single figure. Daniel slowed. It was not a beast. Not a drone. Not a hologram. It was a living Kortai soldier. Tall, strong, and wearing ceremonial armor made of gleaming silver plates. 4 eyes glowed faintly, and in each hand, the soldier held a blade made of pure white energy. The air around those weapons hummed, vibrating lightly against Daniel's skin even from a distance. Then another voice spoke. Not the Empress. A deeper, older voice. You stand at the 5th trial, human, it said. The trial of honor. Daniel's grip tightened around his sword. High above on a balcony, hidden by shadows, an elder Kortai stepped forward. His armor was covered in gold patterns, and his presence felt heavier than the Empress's. When he spoke again, his voice echoed across the chamber. Every challenger who reaches this point must prove they can face a true warrior of the Empire. Not a monster. Not a machine. A warrior with a mind. A warrior with a soul. Daniel's eyes stayed locked on the soldier in the arena. The elder continued, "This warrior is named Sirach. Trained since childhood. Tested in battle. A veteran of the Empire's shadow wars. He has killed more foes than you have fought." Sirach bowed once to Daniel, short, sharp, respectful. Daniel returned the bow. The elder's voice shifted. "If you die here, you die with honor. If you win, the Empire will begin to fear you." The chamber went silent. Sirach stepped forward, blades humming softly. Daniel lifted his sword. The air tightened between them like a drawn bowstring. Then Sirach moved. He was fast, much faster than Daniel expected. The Kortai soldier dashed across the arena, his twin blades slicing the air in tight, precise arcs. Daniel barely blocked the first strike. Sparks flew. The second blade came instantly after, and Daniel hopped back, feet sliding on the smooth stone. Sirach's attacks were controlled, deadly, perfect. Every strike was placed with intention. There was no wasted movement. No wild swings. No anger. Only discipline. Daniel exchanged blows, metal ringing against energy. Each clash shook his arm. The soldier pressed forward, driving Daniel back step by step. Daniel ducked under one blade, parried the other, and countered with a quick cut. Sirach deflected it easily. Daniel struck again. Sirach twisted around the blade, caught Daniel's arm, and pushed him aside. Daniel rolled on the stone floor, jumped back to his feet, and reset his stance. The elder's voice carried from above. "Sirach is technique. Sirach is mastery. Sirach is what the Empire believes humans can never reach." Sirach charged again. Daniel didn't wait. He rushed forward too, meeting the warrior head-on. Their blades clashed with violent speed. Sirach aimed low, Daniel jumped. Sirach sliced high, Daniel ducked. They moved like two storms colliding, each blow faster than the last. Daniel's muscles screamed. Sirach's energy blades cut closer and closer, hot enough that Daniel felt their heat burning through the air. One strike grazed Daniel's arm, slicing a shallow line. He gritted his teeth but didn't slow. Sirach spun and swung both blades downward. Daniel blocked the first, dodged the second, and countered with a sharp thrust. Sirach stepped aside, letting the blade pass. Then something changed. Sirach hesitated. Only for a fraction of a second, but it was enough for Daniel to see it. A flicker of confusion in the soldier's eyes. Daniel realized something important. Sirach wasn't confused by Daniel's speed. He was confused by Daniel's unpredictability. Kortai warriors trained with rigid discipline. Perfect patterns. Perfect forms. Daniel didn't follow any pattern. Daniel fought like someone who had learned through pain, through improvisation, through chaos. Sirach attacked again, faster. Daniel smiled. He switched his style completely, attacking with wild angles, sudden feints, unpredictable movements. Sirach tried to counter, but each time he adjusted, Daniel changed again. A step forward, then back. A slash from below, then an elbow strike, then a sweeping kick. Sirach stumbled. Just a little, but Daniel saw it. He moved in fast. Their blades clashed. Daniel twisted, using his shoulder to shove Sirach off balance. The Kortai warrior dropped to one knee. Daniel put the edge of his sword against his opponent's neck. The chamber fell silent. Sirach breathed hard, 4 eyes locked on Daniel's. Then he lowered his weapons and bowed his head in defeat. The elder above spoke slowly. "He yields." Sirach stood, placed a fist over his chest in the Kortai salute, and said quietly, "You fight with heart, human. And with chaos. The Empire does not understand either." Daniel stepped back and nodded respectfully. The elder's voice echoed again. "The 5th trial is complete." A door opened behind Sirach, revealing a long, dim corridor. Daniel walked past the warrior, who watched him go with a new expression. Respect. Real respect. The Empire had never expected to feel that for a human. And somewhere in the shadows, the Empress whispered one quiet word, filled with rising fear. Impossible. Daniel stepped into the next corridor, leaving Sirach and the 5th trial behind him. His body ached from every strike he had taken, every dodge he barely managed, every moment spent fighting for his life. But there was something new inside him now, something sharp and steady. Momentum. He had beaten the beast. He had passed the trials of worth, truth, and honor. And now, with every step, he felt the Empire's confidence begin to crumble. The corridor ahead grew darker the deeper he walked. The blue lights flickered. The air was colder, thinner. Whisper-like sounds drifted through the passage, scraping, tapping, almost like dozens of fingers running across metal. He slowed. Something was different here. The walls were made of a strange material, almost alive. They pulsed with faint orange light. As Daniel passed, he felt the air shift, as if the corridor itself were watching him. Then the Empress's voice returned, low and controlled, but heavy with something she had not shown before. Fear. Human. You have forced your way through 5 trials, she said. But you will go no farther. Daniel kept walking. The next chamber is the trial of memory, she continued. It is the trial that breaks even the strongest warriors of the Empire. It is a trial no human has ever faced. Daniel gripped his sword. The corridor opened into a round, silent room. Its floor was made of smooth white stone. The walls curved inward, covered with glowing veins that pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of some giant creature. In the center of the room, a column of mist rose from the floor like swirling smoke. Daniel stepped forward cautiously. The moment he entered, the door behind him slammed shut, the mist thickened. The entire chamber vibrated. Then the world changed. Daniel stood in a ruined street. He froze. He knew this place. It was Earth. Or what was left of it after the Empire's invasion. Broken buildings leaned at sharp angles. Flames crackled in the distance. The sky was black with smoke. Scattered across the ground were shattered helmets, glass, and pieces of old machinery. The smell of burning metal and dust filled the air. Daniel's breath caught in his throat as the bitter memory hit him like a strike to the chest. No, he whispered. Not this. The Empress's voice echoed faintly around him. The trial of memory forces you to confront the pain you have buried. It will twist it. It will sharpen it. And it will break you. Daniel gritted his teeth. Something moved ahead. A figure stepped out from behind a burned transport vehicle. A woman in Earth military armor. Dust covered. Exhausted. Her left shoulder bleeding. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew that face. Ava. Captain Ava Morales. His squad leader. The person who saved him more times than he could count. The last person he saw before the Empire took him prisoner years ago. But he knew this wasn't her. This was a memory. A weapon. Daniel, she said, but her voice was wrong, echoing, layered, almost hollow. You shouldn't have left us. Daniel clenched his fists. You're not real. Ava stepped forward, eyes full of anger and grief. We died because you ran. I didn't run, Daniel snapped. I was captured. Captured? She said, stepping closer. Or did you surrender? Did you give up? Did you survive while the rest of us fell? Daniel shook his head hard. You're not her. Ava would never say that. The world flickered. Suddenly dozens of figures appeared around him, more faces from his past. Soldiers he trained with. Civilians he failed to save. People who died during the invasion. They whispered all at once, their voices crawling into his ears. You survived while we died. You left us behind. You fought for nothing. You weren't enough. Daniel stumbled back, covering his ears. But the whispers grew louder. The fire around him roared. The sky cracked with light. He knelt on the ground, fists pressed against the dirt. He spoke through clenched teeth. You are not real. The voices rose. Ava stepped closer, eyes glowing with the same eerie light as the Empress's throne room. You could have saved us. Daniel lifted his head slowly. Pain burned behind his eyes. Old grief, old guilt. The kind he never wanted to face again. But beneath the pain was something stronger. Resolve. He stood. The figures surrounding him grew louder, reaching for him with ghostly hands. Daniel raised his sword. This is what you don't understand, he said. Humans carry their pain. We don't run from it. We don't lie about it. We live with it. He swung the blade through the air. The illusion cracked like glass. Ava faded away. The voices dissolved. The ruined earth melted into mist. And Daniel found himself standing once again in the white chamber, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his face. The Empress spoke softly. You. Past. Impossible. Daniel looked up at the hidden cameras. You think memory breaks humans? He said. You don't know us at all. The Empress did not respond. But Daniel could feel the silence. A shaken silence. A frightened silence. Then the door to the next trial opened with a slow, heavy groan. The final trial waited beyond it. And Daniel stepped forward without hesitation. Daniel stepped through the doorway of the 6th trial and entered a long, rising corridor. The air shifted again, warmer now, charged with a strange pressure. It felt like walking toward a storm. His boots echoed against the dark stone floor, and each step carried him higher and higher, toward the top of the Empire's great arena tower. Toward the throne. Lights along the walls glowed brighter as he climbed, flickering with gold and red. Strange banners hung from the ceiling, symbols of the Core Tie, symbols of old victories, symbols of domination over 100 conquered worlds. Daniel ignored them. At the end of the corridor stood a massive set of double doors, made of black metal and carved with the faces of past emperors. Their 4 eyes stared down in cold judgment. When Daniel approached, the doors opened slowly, with a deep grinding sound like 2 mountains shifting. He stepped inside. The throne room was huge, wide, circular, and filled with golden light. The walls reached so high he could not see where they ended. Wind from open skylights drifted down like whispers. Thousands of glowing orbs circled the room, recording everything. And there, standing on a raised platform, surrounded by guards in silver armor. The Empress. 4 golden eyes. Dark, regal armor. A tall staff glowing with sharp energy. Her expression was calm, but her hands were tense, gripping the staff too tightly. Daniel walked to the center of the chamber. No trial chamber. No platforms. No beasts. No illusions. Just her. The Empress finally spoke. Human. You have passed every trial. Daniel didn't answer. You have defeated monsters, machines, illusions, soldiers, she continued, her voice tight with disbelief. You have done what no member of your species has ever done. What no one expected you to do. Daniel said quietly, then let me finish this. The Empress raised her chin. The final trial, she said, is the trial of dominion. You face me. The guard stepped back. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. This trial was sacred. Only the ruler and the challenger could stand on the arena floor. The Empress raised her staff. Daniel lifted his sword. A deep hum rumbled through the chamber, vibrating in Daniel's bones. Then she attacked. A blast of golden energy shot from the staff. Daniel dove aside, rolled, and sprinted forward. The ground burned behind him as the beam struck the floor. The heat seared the air. The Empress swung her staff, releasing a wave of force that threw Daniel across the chamber. He hit the ground hard but forced himself back up. His ribs burned. His shoulder screamed. But he kept moving. Another blast. Daniel dodged. Another. He slid behind a pillar as golden light sliced past him. The pillar melted instantly, turning into glowing liquid metal. He couldn't block those attacks. He had to get close. He rushed left, then right, dodging beams that streaked like lightning. The Empress moved with unnatural grace, floating above the floor, robes flowing, staff glowing brighter with each strike. You cannot win, she said. You are a spark fighting a sun. Daniel sprinted again, ducking low. A beam missed him by inches, burning a line across his armor. He grit his teeth and pushed faster. He reached her. Their weapons clashed. The Empress hissed, surprised by his speed. Daniel struck again, forcing her back. She spun, struck with the staff, and the blow sent electricity down Daniel's arm. He staggered, but didn't fall. She swung again. Daniel blocked, sparks flying. You are fragile, the Empress growled. Daniel stepped forward anyway. You are weak. He kept pushing. You are human. Daniel shouted through clenched teeth, exactly. He kicked her staff away, forcing her back. She recovered instantly, spinning with fluid precision. Her strikes were fast, powerful, driven by centuries of training. Daniel blocked, dodged, ducked, struck, moved, shifted, fighting with every scrap of instinct and experience he had. The Empress fired another point-blank burst. Daniel twisted aside, letting the blast hit the stone wall, shattering it. He countered with a hard elbow strike. It hit. The Empress stumbled. Her eyes widened, shocked, furious. Daniel pressed forward. He swung his sword. She blocked with her staff. The two weapons locked. Sparks exploded between them. You fight like chaos, she snarled. Daniel leaned forward. And you fight like someone who forgot how to lose. He broke the lock and struck again. And again. Each hit pushed her back. Each hit shook the room. The Empress roared and unleashed a final wave of power that sent both of them sliding across the floor. She gasped for breath, her first sign of weakness. Daniel stood slowly, lifting his sword. The Empress raised her staff again. But her hands trembled. For the first time since the Empire was born. Its leader felt fear. Daniel stepped forward. The Empress tried to attack, but Daniel slipped inside her guard, knocked her staff away, and pressed the tip of his sword against her chest. Silence. The guards froze. The glowing orbs recording the fight dimmed. The Empress stared at him with wide, furious eyes. End it, she whispered. If you want to rule. Kill me. Daniel lowered his blade. No. The Empress blinked, stunned. Daniel stepped back. Humans don't dominate by fear. We lead by choice. If I become ruler, it won't be through killing someone who can't fight anymore. The chamber trembled with the weight of that decision. The Empress fell to her knees, not in submission, but in shock. And the orbs around the room broadcast Daniel's words to the entire empire. A human had won. A human had refused to kill. A human had defeated the greatest power in the galaxy. And chosen mercy. For the first time in 1,000 years, the empire saw something stronger than fear. Hope. Daniel lowered his sword, breathing hard, and spoke softly. The human entered the arena. He looked around at the galaxy's greatest empire. And the empire will never be the same.